Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Power for Pride 2022. So we're ready now with Warden by Jaxler. So take it away, Jaxler.
Hey, good evening, everybody. I am Jaxler, and I'll be running Warden Melody of the Undergrowth for you folks tonight. I'm joined by Carnum Core, aka Ruby, on the mic as well.
Hello. How are y'all doing?
All right, so this is Warden Melody of the Undergrowth. This is a 3D indie action adventure game released by Cardboard Keep in 2016. This game takes some inspiration from the 3D Zelda games. I know a lot of people have said it has some like Wind Waker qualities and OT qualities to it, but kind of puts its own spin on it, and it's a really cool little game. Before I start explaining things, I just want to mention a couple of things. First of all, I noticed some people hearing the phrase indie Zelda might ring along alarm bells of holy crap, I need to play this game. We won't really be spoiling a lot of the game's content except for the ending. So if that's something that's really important to you, I'll mention this at the end of the run as well. But this game is available on PC, so Steam and itch.io. And if you have the bundle from a while back for the itch.io, I believe, Racial Justice bundle, then you already have this game for free. So there will be some spoilers, but we'll be skipping most of the dungeon puzzly stuff, so you won't be missing much on that front. But I just wanted to put that disclaimer out there in advance because I know that's important to some people. So just wanted to keep that in mind. Other thing as well, I'll be locking the frame rate at 60 FPS. This is to make some glitches throughout the run consistent. Oh, and this is an all bosses run. I probably should have mentioned that as well.
But yeah, this is being an all bosses run though. For the final boss, we actually have a bid war up between which final boss we fight, because there's actually an option and you get two different endings. That's kind of why we said that we're going to potentially spoil the ending. So if you go hit !donate in the chat, make your way to the donations, scroll down to the incentives, you should see one for the final boss choice. I believe Emperor is currently in the lead.
Yeah, it's pretty close though. So if you want to sway that either way, make sure you get your donations in. That being said, I think that's everything I wanted to clear up before we started the run. So time is going to start when I press new story here. And if we're ready to go on time, then we'll go ahead and get started.
Let's do it.
Okay, time begins in 3, 2, 1, go. All right, welcome to Warden, everybody. So this game sort of starts off with an intro, not interactive cutscene, but an intro tutorial experience where we're actually not able to jump. So the game is going to want us to do a whole bunch of interactive tutorial bits so we learn how to play the game. But obviously, since we're speedrunners, we already know how to play the game, so we're going to actually skip those learning segments. Now, you cannot jump in these early sections here. So all of the... basically, all I have at my disposal right now is my ability to move the character with the joystick. So the first thing we're going to be doing is skipping a combat tutorial by running up a sword hill onto those rocks in the back and using those as sort of a ramp to get over those briar patches back there. Let's see if I get it. This is a little bit tricky. Okay, second try's good. Yeah, those rocks are very, very slippery. So once we get that, I'm going to crouch slide into this cutscene to essentially stack two on top of each other. And then the second skip we're going to do here is put this rock down right next to this set of boulders here. This is going to give us give us a ramp where I can crouch slide into the final cutscene of the tutorial and skip some more dialogue boxes and such. And that puts us right out of the tutorial. And now we're going to be going into Fire Sanctuary, where I'm going to throw it off to Ruby to explain jank boosting.
Absolutely. So jank boosting, basically whenever you're on a really tall slope, the game tries to push you off of it. And so if you know how to manipulate it, you can actually use that boost to get over areas that you normally wouldn't be able to get over, like that little sleepy friend over there. Now we're going to get past this moat door. So we're grabbing some moat, jumping around here so that we don't have to open the moat door. And that's really important because it means that every moat door that we see later in the run has its cost reduced, because it's saved in the game as basically a list of, okay, how many moat doors have you opened? Here's the cost for the next moat door that you have. So we just saved the cost for every other one in the game.
Yeah. All right, and from here, the general rule of thumb with this game is if it looks even remotely not like a wall or like not flat, you can probably stand on it. And so I used that to skip finding a bunch of hidden levers to raise platforms for that bit. And you're gonna see me do the first instance of what's called a torch slide. So you're gonna see I'm doing kind of this weird glitchy movement as I make my way into the training dummies room. And so what I'm essentially doing is pulling out my torch as I walk into the load zone. And so the game, as you do that, never really finishes the torch like pull out animation. And so it cues it to play and complete the next time you load into a scene. And so when that happens, it actually gives you a little bit more control and wiggle room over your movement. So you'll see I'll pull out the torch again and I'm walking around in this loading zone, and then I can completely turn around this corner. And the other thing as well is that you would normally go to a complete standstill. All right. So I'm going to be setting up a really cool glitch here called the infinite sword glitch here. Now, if you're familiar with speedruns of the N64 Zeldas, you might know where I'm going with this. I'm going to essentially cancel my attack while climbing up onto the vines, which does require a frame perfect input in there. So, and that lets us do this. Yeah. So essentially what I've activated is a infinitely attacking hitbox on my hammer. That's going to be our main source of damage for pretty much the rest of the game. As you progress through the game, you can find more and more valuable weapons that deal more damage, but if you have an infinitely damaging hitbox, then no worries. So like Ruby was saying, that moat door, which normally costs 1,000, only costs 10 there because of the skip we did. Which means that we are able to skip some enemies there. And right there, I just set up something called crouch storage, if you'd go ahead and explain that, Ruby.
Yep, so basically, whenever you go into a loading zone, if you are sliding into that loading zone, it will actually cause you to keep that crouched hitbox when you are walking and running in the next area that you're in. So it allows us to squeeze into slightly tighter spaces, which we're actually going to use right here to get over this door.
Yeah, got it first try. Okay, cool.
Nice.
So you have to be a little bit careful there because that wheelbarrow that uses a platform is breakable by your hammer, and the hammer is currently attacking infinitely. So I have to be very careful to position our character here, Tavian, in such a way that you don't break that. Otherwise, it's pretty much an instant restart the game. So we're going to perform another torch slide here into a pretty tricky sequence of jumps. We're going to have to fight the forces of Jank here in order to climb up this log here. Not going to quite make it. This might take me a couple tries. This one can be a little picky. There we go. Second try's good. So something that I'm doing there, we mentioned how sometimes we can use that sort of propellant force off of the wall in our favor to boost. Give me my hat back, game.
I picked the hat.
Yeah, the hat is cool. I picked up the hat for fun earlier when I was in the sewers, and I don't want to lose it. So I'm just going to pick up that for fun. Where was I going with that? So sometimes with the forces of Jank, you actually don't want to be pushed away from the wall. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll input just a jump without holding any direction in order to reduce the impact of that Jank force. And so since we managed to keep our glitch state active here with the infinite sword glitch, we can go ahead and just absolutely annihilate these flowers as we make our way to pick up our first of our two bonus characters. Well, not bonus characters, but two additional characters here in Madeira. So instead of a traditional dungeon item, this game has different characters with their own unique abilities that you can swap between at will. And so Madeiras allows us to essentially make platforms out of these flower bulbs that you'll be seeing here. So we need her in order to take care of the first boss, Gravana. Now, if this were an any percent speedrun, we could pretty much go ahead and go straight to the end of the game because wrong warping. But we're not going to be doing that since this is an all bosses run. So go ahead and set up another torch slide after we open that door. And so this section, we're supposed to destroy all those poison spewing flowers. But you can actually crouch slide underneath the wall that blocks you and just leave. That's all you got to do. It's pretty funny. All right, so from here, what we're going to be doing is heading up to sort of the first dungeon area / boss. So we're going to be doing a little bit of a platforming segment where you're supposed to raise all of these flowers, and there's a whole lot of them here. I'm only going to raise that one as an initial platform to reach these two up here. Lift this the rest of the way and then just barely reach the vines. And then take a leap of faith off of these vines to land on this upper platform. And then from here, I can just jump the rest of the way. and we're gonna have to use this as a backup platform here. That's totally fine. The flower bulbs all have hitboxes as well, which is gonna be really useful for some skips later. So in this section here, we're not supposed to be able to come here until we've taken care of the poisonous smog flowers. But because I actually just set up crouch storage, the poisonous smog in this area that would normally kill you is actually about like chest height. And so with crouch storage, you can actually just stand underneath it and you're fine. As long as you get past a certain point. So I actually have to be a little bit careful to jump around the kill planes of the smog there. But other than that, we can just totally skip that part of the main quest and go straight into the dungeon here. And then from here, gonna jump off this guy's head so I can skip his fight and then set up another torch walk into here. So a lot of the movement in this game, so we're gonna be sprinting pretty much at all times by pressing down the button in our left joystick. But you're also seeing me throw in a lot of slides in a lot of places. Generally speaking, grounded movement is your fastest option in this game. Except for a couple of smaller places where there's some faster air movement we can do. But essentially what I'm doing is trying to keep my jumps as short as possible, and then in some places use crouch slides from a full sprint in order to retain a grounded state while I'm moving through the air to my next platform. Right here, you're going to see something hopefully really cool here called a plank boost. Let's see if I can get this. Nice. Okay.
Nice.
So we're going to do one more set of that. This one's a little bit flashier. All you do is... Oop, I died. Am I? Yeah, okay. We're going to... I beefed that one a little bit, which is fine. But I'm going to be doing a sprint slide into one of these like tightrope walking segments. And because of the way game's animations work, you gain a boatload of speed. So we use that for a little bit of movement optimization. And then I'm going to swap to Tavian because he still has our hammer. And then that's what I was talking about. So in order to set up the infinite soar glitch and cancel your attack early on the vines, you actually have to set up what's called the first person glitch, which is where you go into first person mode and jump at the same time, which gives you control over your character while you're in first person, which is normally not possible. And once you're in that state, that's what allows you to actually be able to set up the infinite sword glitch here. So we set it up there because it's really useful on these enemies. And then we're going to immediately swap back to Madeira because A, we don't really need the infinite sword glitch for this boss, as well as she's required in order to stun the boss. And we're going to be making our way up to the top here. So all in all, pretty smooth start so far, other than that unfortunate death on the second plank boost, but that one's pretty tricky, so not a huge deal. And we'll go right into the polluted knot. Yeah, so here comes Gravana. Slight volume warning in advance. Most of the bosses in this game, except for like the final boss, are very angry, for lack of a better term. They're going to be quite loud. But yeah, this is Gravana. Hi, Gravana. Gravana's usually pretty rude. Gravana can do two major attacks, either a slam like that, which is what we want, or a sweep. It's a 50-50 shot between the two of them as long as we're close enough to the boss. If we get a slam, we can damage the boss like this. If we get a sweep, we have to wait. So ideally, the best luck that you can get on this boss is to get all three 50-50s in a row and get 3 slams. Very unlikely to happen, but it is possible. So we will see here, but that's a good start so far. And additionally, what I'm doing here is these little mud buddies will explode after they get close enough to you. And so what I'm doing is I'm actually baiting them into exploding and then darting out of the way so that instead of waiting for them to explode at a set time period later, I can make them explode early and get to the next phase a little bit faster here. All right, let's see. Okay, so this is the sweep attack like I was talking about. Again, it's a 50-50 chance, so every time we get a sweep, we just have to wait. 2 sweeps. Come on, Gravana, be nice. And a 3rd sweep. All right, while Gravana is sweeping, this would probably be a really good time for donations. Come on, Gravana.
Okay, so I guess I'll just plug in the upcoming bid war. Oh, we have a bid war between for the final boss between Emperor and someone else and Neona, and it's really close right now. Emperor's currently at $30, but Neona's only at 25. So wait, let me see if it changed. Yeah, it's still there. So definitely get your donation in if you want to change that. If there's still time, we have more we do have a donation.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Yeah, we have $100 from Charbunny who says, "Good luck." Also, just saying, chat, we're really close to that lucky 7K eyeballs emoji. Thank you so much for that donation.
Yeah, thank you, Charbunny, and thank you for pointing out how close we are to 7K.
Holy crap. Thank you all so much for the donations. All right, we got a 6-sweep Gravona fight, which is pretty garbage. Usually your average here is 3 swings, or 3 swipes, but not a huge deal since this is a marathon. But yeah, so as we finish up, this is the first of the 3 bosses that we got to beat before the finals, so hence the namesake of the category. Gravona's like really the only one that comes down to luck in any way. All the rest of them from here on out are full execution. Gonna perform another torch slide as I walk into the cutscene, and you're gonna see we're just gonna leave, or try to leave, which is very funny to me. And you can actually go pretty far through the door. I've never actually been able to get all the way through. Where am I? Oh, okay. I got stuck in there. Cool. But by setting up a torch slide, you can actually walk around in certain cutscenes, and it lets you do some very, very silly things. I'm going to be going for another skip here. Ruby, would you be comfortable explaining what I'm about to do here?
Yeah, so thankfully we don't have to pick up another hat here because we always like moving around and having a nice hat on.
Yeah.
So we're just going to have to do some movement. We're about to be going out of bounds because we're not supposed to be up on these buildings, and so we're just making our way over to the next area a little bit faster. We just had to do some jank boost like we were talking about before to make our way over here.
Yep. And so now we're headed to another kind of interesting place. So the game's kind of broken out into 3 wings, or like 3 major areas besides like the final area. One for each of our characters. We've gotten Madeira. We started with Tavian, and now we're gonna go pick up our 3rd character, which is Bit. We won't be seeing him too much for reasons, TM. So here I'm actually not gonna, even though it's pitch black, I'm gonna move around in darkness for a little bit because I'm gonna wait to pull out my torch. And the reason why is that whenever you pull out the torch, you are immune to the effects of fall damage. And so what I'm going to be doing is pulling it out as I walk off this wooden plank, and that cancels all of the fall damage, so I can take a bit of a shortcut here. And now, coming up on the... Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, just saying that the falling animation is also pretty slow, so we're also saving time in addition to saving health.
Yeah, and health is going to be really important for the next boss as well. Let's see if I get the extension. Nice! Okay.
Nice.
So if you're doing a plank boost at all, and you jump off of a surface that could give you a plank boost, which is one of those, like, you know, tightrope walking, like, plank sections, you can actually maintain the speed from your plank boost. Gonna do another one through here. I didn't get a super high speed one, which is fine. I'm gonna pull out the torch here because we're gonna be lighting up Brazier here in a bit of a moment. But yeah, you can actually do some really cool extensions off of them in order to get even more distance. You don't gain any extra speed, but it just lets you preserve your speed, which is really fun. I'm gonna skip this cutscene and then do a crouch slide as the platform is coming up. Otherwise, you can't really close the distance in time. And then this is the only one of the sleepy friends that we're not going to be able to skip. So whenever we saw that sleepy bulldog-looking pal over there, we normally skipped him because it would take us to the spirit world where Nyona here, who is one of our spoilers, one of our options for the final boss, gives us the rundown on the area we're going to. This is the only one that we don't have a reasonable way of skipping at the moment. Actually, I don't think we have a way, period, of skipping this one right now. But if there are any prospective glitch hunters out there, we'd love your help in finding a way to skip this, because that would be kind of cool. But yeah, doing that cutscene there opens up these lights. We do this one right here, and then we're going to go ahead into the second dungeon, which we're going to pretty much skip completely. And I'll let Ruby explain how this one's going to work, because it's pretty funny.
Yeah, so like we said earlier, we wanted the hat just for looks. Turns out it's crucial for some movement here. So we're going to drop the hat by switching characters, and that allows us to jump up here. This entire dungeon is kind of splits off into 4 parts that converge onto this main room, but we can use the helmet to just kind of boost us up here so that we can light the lamp at the end of each of the 4 sections, effectively completely skipping this dungeon and picking up our second character that we swapped through.
Yeah, so what I'm doing here as well is I'm putting myself in a particular spot. Whenever you take off your hat by swapping characters, it can actually go like flying if you're not careful. So I position my character against the wall in such a way that the hat is forced to be stuck against the wall so that it doesn't go anywhere ridiculous. All right. And then something I did there with that crouch slide as well, a big thing about the movement in this game is that you want to try to avoid what are called hardfall animations, where if you fall from too high of a distance, you'll actually kind of go into a recoil animation, and sometimes you'll even take damage if the fall is that great. But after a crouch slide, when I'm like doing it off of a platform, if I hold down the crouch button, I'll actually crouch walk mid-air for a short time, and I can use that to sort of reset my animations so that like I start falling much later and avoid the hard fall animation. And that's something I'll be doing and kind of have been doing a little bit throughout the run in order to optimize movement here. And now we're going into quite possibly the most dangerous boss in the speedrun, which is the giant fruitcake monster, aka Shaldamaya. Ruby, do you mind taking over?
I just want to point out that not only is this a fruitcake, it's a fruitcake with teeth. So this is definitely the riskiest boss of the run. So you can see that there are these little eyeballs that are turning around. So we need to avoid getting spotted by them so that the fruitcake doesn't start attacking. So we just have to do slide past those eyeballs, and then we can jump into those jars, which is Bit's signature move.
Yeah.
And now we just avoid and do that 2 more times. So now would be a fantastic time for donations or any plugs that we might have.
Well, actually, before we go into donations, I'm gonna mention kind of a new strat that I developed recently as a kind of manipulation. So every time like Shaldamaya goes into the phase of doing 3 attacks before it becomes vulnerable and spawns the pots, it has to do at least 3 attacks before that happens. And what also triggers Shaldamaya to attack is getting spotted by one of the eyeballs. So what I actually did there is I oh, okay, we're live, we're good. So what I actually did there is I got spotted by one of the eyeballs on purpose in order to get Shaldamaya to start the attack cycle early. So that way we actually waited through less attacks. And so we used that there to sort of speed up the fight and get through it in a little bit of a faster manner. But as we make our way through the last phase here, I'm going to try to set up that manipulation one more time. But this would be another good time for anything you'd like to read, Garby.
So I guess I'll just mention that in addition to the final boss choice bid war, we also have a lot of naming incentives for Final Fantasy IV that's coming up really soon after this run and the run after that, in only about an hour or so. So definitely get your donations in for the naming wars. A lot of them don't really have that much toward them yet, and time's running after those. So definitely get your donations in.
Yeah, when it comes to the Warden donation, you probably have about another 10 minutes to get those in and decide the fate of which boss we fight. So go ahead and get those donations in if you feel strongly between Emperor and Niona.
Yeah, so now that we've gotten done with the second dungeon, we're going into the third, and honestly probably my favorite, but it's also probably well, you could probably argue that Bit's dungeon is the most heavily sequence break since we see like none of it. But we're going to be doing some really funky sequence breaking here. We're going to do the same sort of setup that we did when we skipped to Bit section early. We can't really go through any of these areas the normal way because we skipped some crucial story flags that would allow us to pay the moat doors. But even then, we don't want to pay the moat doors anyway. Gonna get a jump off of there and do a really precise crouch slide to reach that banner right there. And then jump to that windowsill, crouch slide off of there. And then I pull out my torch to initiate the torch slide. That was pretty well executed. Okay.
Yeah, that was really good.
And then from here, we're making our way. There's always kind of these fun little, like, I almost call them like routes, like it's a Pokemon game. But I'm going to be doing a little bit more of those jank boosts up here. You're going to see me almost get snatched by the Venus flytrap, but we're good. And then I'm also going to be, there's a mandatory cutscene as we go into here, so I'm going to crouch slide into it in order to set up the crouch storage state again, which will make the next trick that I'm about to attempt a lot easier. So coming up through here, there is a boulder that is only breakable by a hammer or weapon of that caliber. but you can actually get a neutral jump off the side of it, and using your crouch storage state, slide over the top of it. And then from here, we're going to skip another sleepy friend by jumping on this railing, and then he has a massive hitbox that is going to boost us up and on top of this railing here. And this gets us like really, really, really far into the dungeon. So this dungeon is kind of split off into two bits, the water wing and the lava wing. And we're going to skip pretty much all of it, but in kind of an interesting way. Because while we don't get a new character in this area, Tabian unlocks a new ability in this area, and we need it in order to beat the last boss before we go to endgame. So I'm going to go ahead and light this campfire. This will give me a checkpoint that I'll be able to warp back to later once I have this this upgrade. And then you're going to see me do another sort of jump off of a seemingly invisible ledge in order to get up here. And that skips the rest of the water wing, essentially. So now we're all the way up here, and there's this convenient lever here, so basically the whole point of the dungeon is to activate both the water and lava wings in order to get some platforms moving in the center of the dungeon. However, the only reason we come up through the water wing at all is so that we can, the only reason we come up there at all is because that hits a crucial flag that allows us to get the next upgrade from the chef, because the chef needs the water running in order to start cooking, obviously. You're also going to notice that all of these friends here don't really react to me. Their AI doesn't turn on until you see a specific cutscene at the start of the area. So just going to be setting it up a couple more torch slides here, and as we make our way to the next bit. Oh, and the chef, the chef's character model is also just great. Look at him.
What a friend.
What a friend. Yeah, so like I said, a lot of this dungeon stuff, I think is a really cool part of the game that you don't really get to see too much of. So that's part of the reason why I like showing off all bosses. In any percent, we would have been done almost half the run ago, which is funny. It's a cool run, but we get to see more of the game. So, all right, so this is where we get the upgrade of a slingshot. Oh, I said yes to the Larder Master again. Well,
oh no,
I did again.
Oh no.
All right, there we go. So that allows us to shoot these projectiles through these aiming reticles that are located in various places. We just need this to be able to weaken the boss and damage it. So we make our way through there, set up a torch slide, and we're good to go. And so now that we have this, we can start to set up for basically skipping the rest of the dungeon, which sounds kind of wild. But like I said, we only really need the slingshot in order to beat the boss. So once we have that, we don't really need to worry about any puzzles. You saw me light the campfire earlier. There's one in the central chamber that we're going to make our way back to, and we're going to use that in order to fast travel back to the water wing. Usually these campfires are fast travel points between the various areas of the game. We don't really see too many of them in this category, but we're going to go down here, and I'm going to actually pull out the hammer and set up the infinite sword glitch here one more time. And if I play my cards right, I will keep this glitch state again on my hammer for the rest of the run. So we nailed that first try, which is really hype. And then we're going to teleport back to the water wing, and we're going to do some pretty similar movement through the rest of the water wing here. But crucially, we're going to, once we leave the water wing and get back up to that platform that we did the really big torch drop from, we're going to be setting up for something called lava wing skip. And I'm going to let Ruby start setting it up early because this is pretty tough.
Yeah, so lava wing skip is just a extremely tight jump where you really have to use your coyote frames or the not invincibility frames, but the frames that you have after falling off a ledge that you still have the ability to jump. So we have to do a really tight jump here. If we miss it, we have to take an intentional death, but we got it first try anyway, so you don't even need to worry about it.
Wow, that's really hard.
Yeah.
I would say that's one of the hardest tricks in the run, and it definitely is, but wait till you see when we get to mountains. All right, this is Goliath. This is the third boss that we need to fight before we reach endgame. Interesting thing to note as well, I don't think we really mentioned it. In this game, you can actually fight the bosses in any order you want, which I think is really cool. And the game scales its difficulty dynamically depending on how far you are in the game, which I think is really neat. But right here, we're going to stun the boss. The boss can do a number of different attacks. They're all about the same speed. The key in optimizing this fight is having infinite sword glitch so you can wiggle around on its weak point to deal extra damage really quick. And the other thing you have to be ready for is to react to whichever attack pattern that you get. Where you need to aim your shot is going to be dependent on where your shot would land or where its eyeball will be, because you stun it by hitting the targets in its eyes. So this one, I wait for here, and then it'll nail it right as it starts spinning around. And then we get the second shot for free every time as long as we get the initial stun. And then one more set of hits through here. And then that's by far the fastest of the 3 bosses.
Nice job, Jack.
That was like a Goliath fight, yeah. Whew. All right, and then as we go into the exit platform, we're going to be doing one more pull of the torch here in order to set up a torch walk. And then you're going to see me kind of float into this corner here during this cutscene. And so this is the door that unlocks after you've beaten all of the bosses. If we were doing any percent, we could do a glitch called a wrong warp to actually teleport past that door and access the loading zone behind it early, which would let us beat this game in under 11 minutes. But now that we've beaten all the bosses, we can go through that door the normal way and set up another torch walk through here and going into Mountain Base. All right, so I set up a torch walk here, but I'm not going to be doing it on the next loading zone because I need to set up crouch storage one more time and hopefully maintain it for the rest of the mountains. This is like by far like the hardest set of tricks in the run, is everything in the end game here. So we're going to be doing something called canyon skip, which is going to skip a lot of puzzles and platforming in the canyon section here. I'm going to be walking in pitch black darkness because it's going to be a little bit faster than pulling out my torch here, but I have these motes as visual cues to know where to go. And I'm going to be doing a really difficult series of jank jumps on this wall here to try to get onto some out-of-bounds geometry and skip the canyon here. Wow, that was really fast. Okay.
Yeah.
One more jump, and we're good to go. We got canyon skip first try. That was probably better than it was on my TV. That was actually very, very good. Okay, so we got that out of the way. There's a lot of jank that gets built up there, so you have to be really, really careful. This fight is very easy to skip. You just jump on the enemy's head, and you're good to go. One of the easiest skips in the run. It's hilarious every time. And then we're going to be doing a character, like a skip of a character swap. These flower bulbs all have collision on them, and with the help of the crouch storage we set up earlier, we can actually squeeze in underneath the lip of that platform and make the skip a lot easier. And now, as we go into the next section and set up another torch slide, we're going to be going into Canyon Wall Run, which I'm going to let Ruby cover.
Yeah, so this Canyon Wall Run, which is also known as bit skip in the any percent route because it's what allows us to skip the character bit. We're basically just going to do one of those jank jumps. We have to make our way over to a set of boxes to get on top of this battle arena. It's actually slightly faster if you go into the battle arena and do the fight, but it's really easy to lose infinite sword glitch by going into that arena. Oh, just barely missed it there. We have to be really careful around those enemies because one of the ways to lose infinite sword glitch is either by taking damage or hitting the blocking shield of a enemy that can block. So it's really easy to accidentally lose stuff, lose ISG here, and we definitely want that for the final boss, but we made our way through pretty quickly.
That was pretty good. All right, so now we're coming up on the final boss. So now we're going to close that bid war for the choice of the final boss. So, Garby, who are we fighting?
Okay, so it looks like we're fighting Emperor.
All right. So,
all right.
Good choice, y'all. Emperor is actually the optimal fight in the speedrun. Emperor is about 30 seconds faster. Well, actually, probably more than that now. Maybe like 30 to 50 seconds faster than Niona. So the Emperor is actually our dad. So we're going to be beating up on our dad. And we're going to be making great use of the infinite sword glitch that we have set up in order to cruise past this fight. And honestly, optimizing this fight is one of the most fun parts about the speedrun. So the way that this fight works is there's going to be a bunch of crystals that spawn on the ground just like that. And while dodging the boss's attacks, I have to wiggle around in like full circles in order to deal 2 hits to each crystal. And then once the boss is stunned from getting rid of their shield, I have to wiggle around in very, very specific patterns in order to maximize my damage. And hopefully if I do everything right, we get a 3 cycle. But yeah, the big thing with going fast in this fight is knowing in advance where all the crystals are going to spawn and taking the fastest route possible between them and nailing your execution on these spins, because it is not exactly simple to handle that on a control stick, or especially on keyboard if you're a keyboard player. But I think everyone who runs this plays on controller. Gonna be taking care of some of these fences as well, just to make it a little bit easier to get at the crystals. But yeah, we're on the last phase of the fight. This boss is going by really quickly, which is great, which means I'm playing not horribly. So time will be on final hit. So we're actually gonna get ready on time pretty soon here. Get ready? Time. Woo! Okay, that was really good fun.
Yeah, 32-16 is a good run overall too.
Yeah, a couple of days ago that would have been world record, I believe.
Yeah.
So a couple days ago I got a 31-10 in this category, which is just ridiculous. But that is a 32-16. That is disgustingly good, considering the mistakes I made. So, holy crap! All right,
GG,
so we defeat,
dude.
Yeah, GG's. We defeat the Emperor. The kind of cool thing about the endings in this game is it's kind of like an ambiguous, like you side with a different sort of character and fight the other, and it's kind of ambiguous as to what happens. So it's kind of like an interesting, kind of like, do you side with humanity or do you side with the forest? It's kind of interesting. I won't spoil too much more of the lore because you should play this game. And if you have that bundle from itch.io, you already own it, and you should play it. But yeah, that is Warden Melody of the Undergrowth, all bosses. That was a really clean run. I'm really happy with how that went. I'd like to make a couple of shout-outs as well. I'd like to shout out Author Blues, who was one of the people who kind of exposed this game to a lot of the people in the speedrunning scene. And without him, a lot of people wouldn't actually be running this. So huge shout-outs to Author Blues. Like to shout out Chaos Legion Keru, who is one of the big optimizers and innovators for this game, especially within all bosses. So I'd really like to shout out him as well because he put a lot of time and effort into this game. And then last but not surely least, Roy Mart, who is like the mastermind behind a lot of the skips and glitches and all the cool stuff that you just saw in this run. Pretty much found most of this on their own, which is honestly pretty incredible. And has done some like modding work on the game as well to make things easier to find. Huge shout outs to Roy Mart. And also shout outs to Corundum Core, because you're sick.
Aww.
Thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on your couch. I always enjoy doing commentary for you. Yeah, thank you so much to everyone who donated and is watching and is sharing this wonderful event for a wonderful cause.
Yeah. Also, shout out Speedrun Rochester. That's our local speedrun group. We're sick.
Yeah.
Come join our Discord.
We do things fast.
We do the things fast. But yeah, thank you all so much for having me. This game, I know this isn't like a super popular game, so it's really cool to get to show this off at events and stuff. If you're interested in seeing more, we're actually going to be showing this off at this upcoming SGDQ. The first evening at like 3 Central. So it'll be a little late, but you'll get to see the 90% run there if you want to tune in. Additionally, make sure you stick around for the rest of the event. We've got a whole rest of our evening tonight, plus a whole bunch of awesome, really cool runs tomorrow. A couple of which I'll be hosting for. So yeah. Thanks everyone. Shout out Ace Gang. Ace people are cool. Thanks for having me and for making space for me. I appreciate you all so much. All right, I'm going to stop talking so we can get to the next run. So thank you all so much for having me and have a good night.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Jaxler. That was a really fun run. So we did get a couple of donations during that run, at the end of that run. We got a $15 donation, anonymous donation. And also before that, a $20 donation from Terrafield that said nice, that put us up to 69.69, but now we're at so close to 7,000. We're only $16 away, so I know we can hit that. So definitely get your donations in, and so we'll be starting setup for Tori 2 by killing Pepsi. So stick around for that.